Class of 2010 Writers Retreat Fellow in Nonfiction.
He's taller than I am. Good evening.
Hello.
What I'm going to read is a scene from a memoir in progress, working titled Between Two Worlds. And this is for Amy, Mark, and Emily. It was 2 nights before my daughter Emily's 10th birthday party, a Friday night. I went to bed as late as possible, hoping to avoid a scene with my wife. But Linda was still awake, and she had romance in mind. I did not, and I would not. Twice, maybe 3 times, she moved her hand slowly across my naked back, her usual way of inviting me to embrace her. But this time I did not respond. When she tried once more time, I turned on my side, moving almost to a fetal position. Not surprisingly, Linda did not take kindly to my continued rejection of her advances. "What's wrong?" she asked, and then insisted on knowing. I tried not responding at all. My stomach was tightening and my face was turning red. I was just not ready for this confrontation, not yet. But she would have none of it, and her interrogation continued. "You will not be going to sleep until I know what's going on," she announced, and she meant it. I put a pillow over my head. Linda quickly yanked the blanket down from my body and off of the bed. I told her, "Please, I'm trying to sleep." She turned on the lights. So I got up and left the bedroom, heading down the stairs to our family room, a recent addition to our house. Linda, in her long, flowered flannel nightgown, followed me down the stairs. She walked so closely behind me that I could hear her agitated breathing, and I felt it on my neck. I sat down on the sofa when I got to the room, and then she sat down right next to me, her thigh touching mine. Her frizzy blonde hair was usually tied tightly behind her head for sleeping, but now it was as wild as the look in her eyes. My blood pressure felt so high that I started to believe that a stroke was imminent. Still, I had nothing to say. I felt so pathetic. Had I come this far only to be defeated by my own lack of courage? Our game of cat and mouse literally went on all night long. At 2 a.m., I was starting to nod off, only to be awakened by her insistent, "No! You are not going to sleep until you discuss this with me." Her long, chapped fingers were now pointing at me, and her hands were shaking. By 3 a.m., my wife, having moved to a reclining chair across the room, was demanding to know if I was having an affair with another woman. "Oh, that must be it," I said, obnoxious sarcasm being my latest defense. "I have so many women lining up around the block to sleep with me that I have to hand out numbers. Now please, can we get some sleep?" Soon, the sun was starting to rise, and still no sleep. Linda looked both exasperated and exhausted. I was now numb and feeling on the edge of both physical and emotional collapse. Finally, Linda looked at me painfully with resignation, looking directly into my eyes, and said, "Well, then maybe all of this is just because you're gay." I stared at her, blood rushing to my head as my heart started pounding. It was probably only seconds, but it felt like hours. I took a deep breath, aware that neither of our lives would ever be the same. And then I just sighed. Yes, maybe I am gay. The following hours are something of a blur. She screamed and she cried, and I cried, and then she screamed and cried some more. At some point, the kids came downstairs to see what was going on and why we were both up so early, and why we were in the new room with the door closed. One or maybe both of us made some kind of lame excuse and sent them away. I recall lying down on the carpet, face down in front of our new fireplace, under the newly plastered cathedral ceiling, and just wept uncontrollably. "I'm sorry, I'm just so sorry." That's all I could say. In my imagination, coming out to my wife after the initial shock was always going to be followed by some lengthy and difficult discussion of the dissolution of our marriage. Plans would have to be made with regard to living arrangements, finances, and most importantly, custody issues. It never, not even for 1 minute, occurred to me that there would or could be any alternative to separation and divorce. For what was this all about if not the realization and final acceptance of the fact that a marriage between a man and a woman could not possibly make sense if that man was a homosexual. It was therefore a breathtaking, indeed almost a heart-stopping instant when Linda finally looked up at me with an expression that was both mixed with love and sympathy and said, "Don't worry, honey, we'll find a way to make this marriage work." Now my head was pounding, and all I could think was, oh my God, we'll make what marriage work? You don't understand. This is not about making our marriage work. This is about ending our marriage. This is not about your learning to live with a gay husband. This is about the fact that your husband is gay. This is about his need to live his real life for the first time. This is about his need to live honestly. That's why he told you this. Because he could not live a dishonest life. He has to live his life, and now you have to live your life. My head was spinning. I had just been crying on the floor, but now I was filling with rage. I would not allow my life to be taken from me again. For years I had allowed myself to be controlled by this woman in so many ways, but perhaps I'd even invited this control. After all, wasn't bargaining what this marriage really had always been about? Had I not married this woman, at least in part, to control this deeply and profoundly unacceptable side of my own identity? Had she not married the boy next door, knowing that he was not like the other masculine, sports-loving boys that were in our high school class? But now this quid pro quo had been exposed, and it had taken every wrenching iota of emotional and psychological energy that I could muster to admit to her that I was gay. And now, she was going to respond by saying, "That's all right, dear, I can live with the fact that you're gay." No, this was not going to happen. The deal was over. It was over in my bed last night, and now it's over in our marriage. Over.